Welcome back to the Ed Morrissey Show podcast. Joining us as always, the Prince of Twitter, the Regent of RedState.com, Andrew Malcolm of RedState.com, at AH Malcolm on Twitter. So welcome back for another fun week.
Yeah. Yeah, the summer doldrums for sports writers.
Well, this is how Andrew leads us into our first topic. I was just griping about this. The Guardian. This is yesterday, right? We're recording this on Monday, so this is on Sunday. The Guardian runs this column by a guy named Howard Bryant, who nobody's ever heard of, and probably nobody will ever hear of again, calling Sophie Cunningham anti-Black. Because she opposes males competing in women's sports. Now, this guy is deranged. I don't know if have you seen this?
No, fortunately I haven't.
I mean, I'm not a basketball fan anyway. It's just not my sport. I don't dislike it. It's just not my sport. I don't follow it. So I don't follow women's basketball. I put as much effort into following women's basketball as I follow men's basketball. But I'm aware of the issues that are going on in the WNBA, mostly which has to do with money. They want to be paid the same as the male players, but nobody watches their games. And part of the reason why nobody watches their games is because it's not a very good product. They don't play very well. They don't have really good players in that league. Caitlin Clark happens to be one of them. And Caitlin Clark is getting mugged by every team in the WNBA, and referees aren't doing much about it. So Sophie Cunningham, is her teammate, her wingman, has been outspoken about this. Now, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, Nancy Armour at USA Today wrote this essay, Andrew, that said that, well, Caitlin Clark should realize that when she's playing in the city where Emmett Till was lynched, that there are bigger issues in play and that she should really just kind of shut up and take it. Even though they're calling a completely different game against Caitlin Clark than they're calling for everybody else on the court, right? In terms of fouls, in terms of being assaulted on the court. Basically, I mean, did you, that was a couple of weeks ago. I'm not sure if you.
No, but there appears to be a racial element in that many of the Black women seem to be very rough on Caitlin Clark, including punching her in the throat, a foul that was not called. So it gives the impression, well, first of all, they're trying to intimidate her, which is what you do in pro sports. I mean, the first quarter of a high school football game is a lot rougher than the fourth quarter because you're trying to set the boundaries of what you'll put up with. That's the way sports are played. But Caitlin Clark is so good. She's so good because she works so hard at it every day. Hundreds of shots from the 3-point line, all around the side. And Sophie Cunningham, who was used to play in Phoenix, now is her teammate, and as you said, her wingman. She's kind of stood up for her and has developed. First of all, she's beautiful, but she's very feminine and yet tough, which is a hard thing, I think, to mix. I wouldn't know myself, but I think it's a hard thing to mix. And she came up with that pointing thing at one of the other players who was trying to intimidate Clark, just pointing at her. And Cunningham said later that it seemed to rile her, so she just kept on doing it. Now that's become a meme with everybody pointing and so on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great meme, right? It's I'm going to start doing that with Andrew.
And
are you really gonna do that, Andy?
So what is with this pointing? Why is everybody pointing?
I know, I love it. Well, and now Sophie's got her own brand of shoes, and she gave one that she wore in a game. She gave one to a little girl, and if you see the look on the little girl,
that was such a sweet moment.
You know, the moments when I saw this in hockey, when I spent a lot of time doing that with my son, the pro athletes who do that, or even amateur ones who do that, are they're special. First of all, it's a good marketing trick. There just happened to be somebody videotaping Sophie walking across the court and handing an awed little girl a free tennis shoe and signing it and posing for pictures with her mother. I think it's natural for Sophie. I think she's wonderful. She goes into the locker room or comes out of the locker room a lot of times with rescue dogs to promote their adoption. I mean, she's just a nice person by everything I've seen and know. So she standing up for Caitlin, and I guess at some press event the other day, Caitlin Clark did not want to get into the trans moment, the trans argument. Sophie Cunningham said a couple of weeks, I guess, ago, or maybe longer, that men should not be playing against women in women's sports. Well, I mean, to me, that's just so plain obvious. And
Right.
the NCAA has done that. Well, this is very controversial. And let's remember, this is August. And so it's a tough time for sports writers. NFL hasn't started. Baseball is in the summer doldrums. The trade deadline, I guess, just happened. So there's not a whole lot to write about. So they try to stir something up. And it looks like they have. But Caitlin Clark did not want to answer whether she supported Sophie Cunningham in this statement. Well, who blames her? I mean, she's got a business to run. She doesn't want to get involved in it. Well, this became they tried to make this into a big deal that, oh, she's not sticking up for the person who sticks up for her. Well, it's all manufactured. When I worked in government for a governor, they would ask him questions in interviews or news conferences, and he would speak. They would ask him questions about things that had nothing to do with his job, and he would be polite about it and appear to address it, but we didn't want to get involved in those. But they're looking to create a conflict and a story. I guess that's natural, but I always went to the reporters afterwards and said, now make sure you say in your story, in answer to a question. This isn't because it would come out that the governor denounced such and such. Well, as if he had a news conference just to talk about that. Well, that's what they're doing here with the women's sports. There's not much to write about. I like you, I don't follow basketball, but I do watch highlights of Sophie Cunningham and Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin and the other teammate whose name escapes me because she hasn't been in a controversy yet.
Yeah. Nobody's asked her a question yet. That's the thing.
Right.
I mean, just to get on that point, though, she was asked about that issue. She didn't stand up and say, I am here to deliver a statement. A reporter asked her about that, and she gave an honest answer. So she's not there being an activist. She's just answering a question. And
the league, sports leagues require the athletes to answer questions. It's not like they said, gee, I hope a reporter asks me about this. They require media availabilities because it helps promote the sport. What were you thinking in the third quarter and all that? But to gin up a controversy in a slow time of the season in summer, they ask about things like trans. Well, like you say, it's tiresome. But I love Sophie.
I love Sophie too. I haven't, like I said, I'm not a fan. So, I mean, I just like the fact that she's got the courage to speak out. Right. And this one, it just was so frustrating, right? Reading this guy's essay because it is just so unhinged.
Yeah.
I want to just point up something here is that first off, he said that Caitlin Clark was intended to be the conservatives' anti-black favorite player. I guess just because she's the best player in the league, right? She's the most talented player that's come down the pike in a while.
Oh,
And
yeah.
but now because Clark has lacked the courage and dexterity to say anything beyond the milky and ambiguous. Basically, he's calling her a wimp because she won't answer questions. And then immediately after, because Cunningham is answering questions, he says this: Cunningham plays the role of the blithe and bubbly iconoclast, oblivious to the world around as she unapologetically speaks her truth. But she is every bit as political as Colin Kaepernick, Megan Rapinoe, or her locked arm t-shirt wearing colleagues that defined the WNBA when she first entered the league in 2019. So Clark is a wimp because she won't answer questions, but Cunningham's a bimbo because she will.
I know. And here's the thing. Caitlin Clark is really good at what she does. Now, her job, she has to talk with the media sometimes, and so she does. If she had a PR advisor, they would have told her, when they ask you a question you don't want to answer, don't say, I'm not going to answer it. What you should do is appear to answer it, but take it where you want to take it.
Yeah, politicians are really good at that.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
successful politicians are very good at that. They have to be. It's a skill you have to develop.
It's a skill. So Caitlin's not good at that. And so they say, well, what do you think about Sophie Cunningham? You say, what I think about Sophie Cunningham is that she's one of the best players in the world, and she's my good friend, and she supports rescue animals. That gives them nothing.
Yep.
No controversy.
Yep.
And they can't say she didn't answer the question. Boom.
Nope.
But
it's true.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, I mean, so this is sports journalism is basically trash. Just basically trash.
I tell you, I had a limited experience sometimes. The editors in my newspaper years ago knew that I was a big fan of the Cleveland Browns. And so to save money on overtime, they would ask me to cover a playoff game involving Cleveland, and it's because they knew I would do it for free. Yeah. So that's how much I knew about it. But it's fun. These sports are fun to watch if you know something about it, But anyway, I love Sophie. I wish her all the best. I would say she's stalwart, and yet still is feminine. Since it's not like some people, some women in public life, where you go, that's a guy. She's very feminine and very good at what she does. She's not bad at 3-point shots either. So I watched the highlights of that. I can't. I had to look up the other day who the Lynx are, where they were. So.
Oh no, that's Minnesota. I knew where the Lynx were.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I didn't. So anyway, so it's fun, but it's sports writers. They have to be creative sometime. And the fact is they're getting paid to write a story, so they have to have something. And if the game is boring, then they'll try to gin something up from the aftermath when they get to talk with a couple of players. I've been in the locker room and watched NFL locker room and watched reporters try to gin up some controversy. What were you thinking when you threw that interception? I mean, they're trying to be provocative.
I wasn't thinking. I thought that was obvious. Next question.
Yeah, exactly.
I was thinking about how my take home pay is about worth 5 years of your salary.
That's
Next
right.
question,
That's right.
please.
I'm getting paid more per game than you are in your year. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's
Anyway,
what I was
so
thinking about at that moment. That's exactly what I was thinking about. All right, we got to get to your columns here. I don't want to spend too much time on Sophie Cunningham, even though I really like Sophie Cunningham. We
oh yeah.
started talking about Anthony Fauci last week, and this is right
Oh.
after he he did his best Dave Brubeck impression by taking five. I, was, I like
No,
jazz jokes.
actually, we talked before he did that. We
Oh, that's right.
talked
We talked before. We did. We
when
talked before. We talked in
when
preparation of that. That's right. You're
when
right.
when the diary came out, we talked.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, dear
but you know
diary.
and talk about throwing interceptions. How smart do you have to be if you're going to write uh, a personal, self-aggrandizing diary about your controversial work, uh, so that you can make a lot of money with a memoir later? I mean, that's planning ahead. Well, what he didn't count on was he did it on government servers.
Yeah.
So when he retired, he downloaded it, took it with him to write his $5 million memoir. But it stayed on the servers, and so Robert Kennedy Jr. Or his aides dug through 11 different government servers and assembled Fauci's diary and delivered it to another person who doesn't like Anthony Fauci, Senator Paul from Kentucky. So he released it, and we talked about that last week. Then, as you say, um, Fauci showed up. Fauci, in Sicilian means sickle. I was going to make some kind of a metaphor about that, but I decided
Well,
not
it's
to.
kind of a grim reaper.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he showed up and didn't answer questions. So I wrote a column, assembly, basically saying, well, what would be a good punishment for him? He's got a pardon. Screw it. Uh, what should we? How would we punish him? And that seemed to go over pretty well on Sunday, and a lot of people left comments and their thoughts on it. But when you go through it, the diary and what he did and what he said. I mean, the hypocrisy is just overpowering. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like garlic on somebody's breath. It's just you can't you can't get past it. The guy is so full of himself. How he was at for some unexplained reason he was at a celebrity awards event and. He thought that what's her name? Who was that? Julia Roberts was just so stunningly beautiful, and he described her in great detail. And she said that she got choked up whenever she saw his picture. I mean, so you put this in Dear Diary. Julia Roberts got choked up when my picture came on the screen. I mean, he's just such a cheesehead, and you know, short people, short men especially, like to get attention because they don't dominate physically, and so he got his. And I'm, he his reputation is ruined. The things the guy did, and the BS is just it's just overwhelming, and people have their own feelings about it. And I was surprised at the vehemence that people expressed in the comments and what they thought the punishment should be. Whew, it sure wouldn't be $5 million for a memoir.
Well, yeah. The $5 million thing sticks in my cross somewhat, given that it's based on the misery of millions.
Yep.
I'm not necessarily sure what punishment you can do. I mean, the pardon's plenary. I know that the state of Florida is talking about doing an investigation, but there's technical reasons why state charges won't apply. And I tried to explain that. A couple people objected, but look, when you're doing your job as a federal officer, those kinds of disputes belong in federal court, and that's where his pardon applies. So the state of Florida really can't do anything to him either. The only thing that can happen is a contempt citation. I'm not even sure how far that's going to go.
No, it's not going to go anywhere. You remember when Eric Holder, oh, talk about guys that annoy me. Eric Holder was Obama's attorney general. And so
Yep.
he oversaw what's the gun, the weapons division in Justice Department. And so they gave guns, weapons, really serious weapons, to sold them, pretended to sell them to the cartels, and guns ended up killing people, including a U.S. Border Patrol agent. And Congress wanted to look into that. I mean, the chief law enforcement officer of the United States arming cartels seems to be something that might require investigation. And he refused to go. And so Congress, I think it was a Republican Congress too, cited him for contempt of Congress, and that went nowhere. He just ignored it, didn't go, refused to go, and nothing happened. Nothing happened after Benghazi when Trey Gowdy, the Republican, investigated the deaths.
Well, I will say this though, they got Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro both went to federal prison for a few months for contempt for not showing up to the
Oh,
hearings.
those are conservative. Huh.
Yeah.
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 But I think Trump's
Democrats
the
no consequences for the Democrats. What happened to Bill Clinton? Nothing. You know, I
Nothing.
mean, yeah. What happened to Hillary Clinton? Nothing. Obama was AWOL during the 16 hours of Benghazi. Nothing. Reporters didn't even ask him what he was doing, lost to the world and America for 16 hours. It just burns my butt.
Yeah, it does. It does. You know what really burns my butt is a flame about this high. But that is not my joke of the week, by the way. It's just a joke of the week.
Edward, yes.
All right. Well, let's move on to something else before we leave, because you wrote a second column this week about something that a California city is doing, which frankly, I am both stunned at and completely unsurprised.
Yeah.
Now, when I grew up in California, I grew up in California.
Yeah,
California
I know.
native. I'm an Angelino, right? I was born in the county of Los Angeles. I grew up in the county of Los Angeles. This was a car culture. You drove everywhere.
They
there's just
invented
one.
it. Remember the Beach Boys and the Woody and all that stuff.
This is part of what you did, right? Because just the geography of Los Angeles is so spread out. You really have to have a car.
So what happened? What happened was Culver City, which is famous in the movie world because it was where they filmed many, many movies, including Gone with the Wind and Wizard of Oz. Culver City is moving to ban new drive-through food places.
Yeah. Good luck, In-N-Out. First off, In-N-Out really isn't building in California anymore. Part of the reason is because of stuff like this. They moved the corporate headquarters to Tennessee.
That's right. They moved to my state, and they've opened a whole bunch of restaurants here. It's really good. You say, well, wait a minute, what's wrong with drive-throughs? Well, you see, Ed, pedestrians have to walk across the driveway.
Yeah,
and also cars have motors that pollute the air.
That's the reason why. Now, there's decades ago, California cities started moving to get rid of drive-ins, right? The drive-in was a big thing in California culture in the 1940s, the 1950s, and 1960s. I think A&W was the last one that had a chain of drive-ins, right? Sonic
in the
has them
South, we
now.
got Sonic. Yeah.
Yeah, Sonic is great. I like Sonic, but I mean it used to be, it had the servers on roller skates, and they'd bring the food out to your car window and all that kind of stuff. Sonic still does, well, minus the roller skates. Sonic brings the food out to your car. But that used to be a big part of California culture. And then they started shutting it down in the 60s because it attracted the wrong element or whatever the hell it was. But this time around, it's all about, well, there's too many emissions. It encourages too many emissions. This is not people parking their cars while letting the engines idle. They're just driving through to pick up their food and then going home. There's really almost no difference between doing that and doing an Uber. I mean, Uber Eats or or DoorDash or something like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's absurd that they're going to ban this, but it's so California now.
Oh yeah, remember they? That's what I said in this was my audio comment, my Andy Rooney audio commentary, where I said, what did I say? Oh, I said, okay, that California had cracked down on those evil things like plastic straws and plastic bags and those tiny little shampoo bottles that hotels gave away for free. And they didn't have time to get into the dumping raw sewage into the Pacific Ocean. That's something for later. Give me a break.
I'm sorry. What's up with body wash containers in the hotel showers? Why don't we just get a bar of soap like we used to?
What's up? I love that. What's up? Every week I look forward to Ed doing Andy Rooney.
What's up with this?
I am still auditioning for Barry Weiss to bring me onto 60 Minutes. I guess she picked Ross to do that.
The idea would get. I would promote that as much as Sophie Cunningham. That would be it.
Well, that's saying something. Yeah, I guess they brought in Ross Douthat, and now the New York Times doesn't have a conservative columnist any longer because Ross is gone. He's going to be doing segments for 60 Minutes now, and probably writing for the Free Press. So, does the New York Times even bother to hire a conservative columnist? And if they did, what kind of conservative would take the job?
Yeah, well, they have David Brooks still, but he's.
Oh, please.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, please. What's up with David Brooks?
Yeah.
See, you're doing a great Andy Rooney too. Either one of us could do this.
I'm doing an amateur Ed Morrissey doing the real Andy Rooney. That's what I'm doing.
What kind of conservative would agree to write for the New York Times? I mean, honestly, this is actually an honest question. Before we get to the jokes of the week, because I think this is worth discussing. I'm not going to be asked, so let's just stipulate up front that nobody's going to ask me to do it, and I'm fine with that because I would not trust them.
You'll be busy doing Andy Rooney at CBS.
Well, I hope so. I'm still waiting for the call, but in case that doesn't come through, I mean, I would. Maybe at some point I would have aspired to write for the New York Times or the Washington Post, maybe sometime before I actually read them, as a conservative columnist, but I wouldn't trust them as far as I could throw them. I mean, I could almost guarantee you that at some point within the first 5 columns I submitted there, I'd face the same type of thing that happened to Kevin Williamson over at The Atlantic, which is that sooner or later somebody would find something I'd written that was problematic, maybe something I've been writing about, Sophie Cunningham, or maybe just what I've written about the New York Times in the past, and they would get me fired over it. It wouldn't even be something I submitted to the New York Times. It would be something that I'd written over at Hot Air or someplace else, or something I said on somebody's podcast, and I would be canceled probably before my first column went up. I would not trust the New York Times, the Washington Post, certainly not the Atlantic. I wouldn't trust any of these people to stick to an agreement.
Yeah.
I think
And you would be well served to avoid that. There's an element, behind the scenes element of trolling or revenge here. Barry Weiss was hired in 2015 by the New York Times and the publisher to, how would you say it, to diversify the authors on the op-ed page, the viewpoints, which is, I mean, that's a good thing. And that's why she agreed to do it. She at one point she had what's his name, the senator from Arkansas, Tom Cotton. She
Yep.
had him write. She had him or let him write a piece saying that, well, maybe we should use the military in controlling this urban problems, crime, and the demonstrations in the street, and so on, which, of course, Trump ended up doing with the National Guard in Washington. And that was so controversial. But I mean, that's a good thing usually in journalism, is you want people paying attention. So the staff, now this used to be church and state. You used to have the news staff was one thing and the editorial page was another. When I would go to the editorial page lunches, because they had off the record lunches with newsmakers, I had to get special permission from the news department to go there. And of course, you couldn't write anything about it because it was off the record. Well,
right.
The newsroom rose up with all their little wokeness, and said that they were endangered somehow by Tom Cotton writing it and Barry Weiss publishing it. Well, anyway, to shorten it, they fired the editorial page editor, who's the brother of Senator Michael Bennet, and Barry Weiss left. Well, she's very smart. She is very. I've never met her. I don't know her. Never talked to her. But she's very smart, and she founded Free Press and the Free Press with her partner, and then great success there. And then CBS bought her out for a couple $100 million and hired her to run the news department. So she went out and hired another former New York Times guy to run 60 Minutes. And now they've hired another ex-New York Times guy to work on 60 Minutes. So they're all, if you have to put them in a category, they're not liberal. Now, I guess that makes them conservative in the eyes of some, but they're more professional than they are partisan. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. There hasn't been a whole lot of great success yet at CBS from Ms. Weiss's moves. But anyway, so she's hiring people that used to work with her at the New York Times. So there's a little thumbing of the nose going on here.
Right. Yep. All right. Well, with that in mind, we should get to the jokes of the week.
Well, I have one. And
these
are, as always, this is old, but this Conan O'Brien. And he says the theory of the Freudian slip has now been scientifically proven after more than 110 years. I don't know about you, but I think that's the best news I've heard all week.
All right, I got one for you.
Okay.
This is kind of an old one, but this is a fun one. Man sent to prison for the first time. Night, the lights go out. And his cellmate goes over to the bars and yells, "Number 12!" And everybody starts laughing. A few minutes later, somebody else down the block yells, "Number 4!" And everybody starts laughing again. New guy says, What's so funny about calling out these numbers? He said, well, we've all been here a really long time and we all know the same jokes. So now we just yell out the number of the punchline, the number of the joke instead of doing the whole joke. The new guy says, all right, well, I'll see if this works. So he walks over to the bars and he yells, "Number 29. And everybody, the whole cell block just bursts into laughter. And after the guffaws die down, the new guy turns around to the older prisoner and says, "How come you guys were laughing so hard this time?" "Oh," the older guy says, "We've never heard that one before."
I like that one. I really like that one.
There you go.
Yeah.
We've never heard that
Oh,
one
I
before.
like that one. That's a golden one. That's a good. I'm going to get some mileage from that.
There you go. All right. That's what we want to give all of y'all mileage on all of these things. We're here every week. Try the lobster. It's delicious. Don't forget to tip the waiter. Andrew Malcolm, the Prince of Twitter, the Regent of RedState.com. We'll talk again next week.
Yes, we will. Thank you, Edward. Thanks, everybody. See you then.